minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey folks, welcome to the Launch Sequence Podcast. Got another good week of Star Citizen talk for you. And we're going to be talking about the big patch that kind of just dropped out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere because we've known about it, delayed as other numbers. And we'll get into that. But it's got a lot of good stuff in it, cargo stuff. And I brought on Darjanator, who actually you have a lot of interest in this part of the game. And you've already gotten to get into Evocati 324 and kind of get some hands on. So today we're going to go over what's in this patch, the significance of it, kind of how we got here, and what comes next. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
No problem. It's great to be on the show for the very first time. Yeah, I'm pretty good. Bit of a lull in work right now. So I got to get on the show at 2 p.m. So it's just fine.
I
Uh,
appreciate that. Thank you.
no
It's
problemo.
mid-afternoon show. Have we
Mm.
we have we been on Captain's Table before together? That's where I know you from, primarily seeing you.
I think once, yes,
Yeah.
just the once.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's they blur. There's been so
Yeah.
many
It's
episodes
it's
over the
it's
years.
been so many, yes. Like I've been in the Star Citizen community for over 10 years at this point, and
Yeah, you've
there
been
there's
around.
there's there's things I've found myself recently remembering and wondering whether they're memories or whether they're just, some of the feverish podcasts of full of theory crafting and wishing that we had something. It's just like I need to start doing better notes at what's actually real and what's not.
It blurs the lines, man. I mean, we're here in
Mm.
2024 and we're still speculating. Back in
Yeah.
2014, anything was possible.
Yes, exactly, because nothing was in real
Yeah.
at that point.
So
Yeah.
so you were around that time. You were making content for Star Citizen at that time. What got you into it so early on?
Into content for
Into
Star
Star
Citizen?
Citizen? Yeah.
Into Star Citizen. Just a couple of friends. I think it was just happenstance. I've always been a fan of sci-fi games and especially space games. One of my favorite ones up until that point was Independence War 2: Edge of Chaos, which was the first sort of cockpit experience with Newtonian physics, sort of like what Star Citizen is trying to be, well, is at this point. So
Hmm.
yeah, we actually play that a lot as sort of as practice for what Star Citizen was going to eventually be. Because at that point, when I started my podcast called The Fortnightly Frontier, uh, we just had the hangar module, nothing else. We could look at our pretty ships, but do nothing with them. So if we wanted to go flying, we had to go to other games.
And for anybody who's a little bit more new to Star Citizen, when he says hangar module, that's because the only thing that was possible in Star Citizen back then was just walking into a hangar. How we've
Yep.
come full circle now with 324.
Yes,
We made it.
we made it, yeah. But in a slightly better way, because now we actually can do what was dreamed of back then. We can bring our friends into our hangars and
Yeah.
sit around and have drinks while looking at our ships. Because
Yes, we can actually
that's
hang
basically
out.
that's the game. That's the game at this point.
Well, I wanna get a little bit into that before we get into specifics. What's your vision of what you want to do in Star Citizen?
It's evolved over the years, primarily with what Star Citizen was capable of at most at the point. Like at one point, it was basically I just wanted to do the whole Firefly thing, just live on my ship, just go from location to location, do some stuff at those locations, maybe transfer cargo passengers across systems and stuff like that. Not actually tie myself down anywhere, but just be a nomad,
Yeah.
living on my ship. Which is why I got the Carrack, which was supposed to be the Firefly. Ish, yeah. It's still the closest we've got, but
Yeah, it is
it
pretty full
lags
function.
the vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a fire or like the Serenity ship.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel like that would come from like Drake or Misk. Something like that.
I considering the whole thing, yeah, yeah, definitely not Origin, Regis, or Anvil. Yeah, Could potentially be CNOU as well.
Hmm. Oh, that'd be
Yeah.
interesting.
Mm.
So you wanted to kind of be a freelancer for a while.
Yeah.
Has that
For a
changed
while.
recently?
Uh, it's shifting just because I'm very from the very start I was attracted to settling down somewhere. And just not in a big city, just somewhere in an asteroid on a moon. And that was like the whole thing with the hangar module back then. It was something that you could call your own, somewhere to just to have a base of operations.
Mm-hmm.
And now that completely went away just because there was nothing really ownership oriented in Star Citizen other than just modes of transport with ships. But it feels like that's coming back with these personal hangars and land claims and outpost, not outposts. What's it called?
The
Base
distribution
building.
centers?
Yeah,
Oh, base
the
building. Yeah.
base building. Yeah. So just have a little corner of the galaxy somewhere to yourself where you could have some quasi grazers and
So
space tomatoes.
you're going to be a farmer.
Yeah, the cottage core at this point in my life kind of starts becoming attractive. You know what I mean? That
I'm
lifestyle.
I'm actually, yeah. I mean, they don't talk about farming, but seeing as
Mm,
how they do all of these different things, and I think there's one time they talked about farming and like the way that plants would grow. Just thinking, you're gonna have animals that are clearly gonna be doing pasture stuff. You're gonna be able to plant stuff because commodities and crafting and all of that. And I think it could actually be pretty deep, And you look at ships like the Endeavor that are supposed to have this greenhouse effect that
mm.
um, I do wonder how many people are just going to be solely space farmers, just off on some moon, just shipping stuff out to nearby outposts and making a little bit of
It's
money.
I can totally understand that for a lot of people that is an attractive proposition. It is something new. It's it's not going to be Terraria, which is just Earth based stuff. It will be
Hmm.
new experiences. But yeah, still has that cozy feeling that a lot of people are after. But could get bored of that. Could go back to
Could.
my old Serenity Dream. Could get bored with that. Could become a PvPer or a racer.
Hmm.
That's I've always my entire life I've always been about fast cars and racing. So could totally see myself becoming like a professional racer at one point, but not in the way. Nothing that's currently in Star Citizen as in terms of racing has really just grabbed me yet. I'm more of like an endurance racing sort of
Hmm.
um,
I
fan.
do. I do wonder if Quantum Boost brings in more kind of long distance racing like that, figuring out the most
Mm.
efficient path around planetary bodies and stuff with the
Yeah,
manual quantum travel.
it's yeah. There's potential to that if you have. This, it could actually if you start in integrating that as a mechanic into your racing, it could create very interesting racetracks.
Yeah.
Like you have segments of the track where you have to be very SCM based and it's all about maneuverability. But then have sections where it's just the fastest way from getting from point A to point B, and then mul- a different take on multi-class racing.
Hmm. Could be interesting. I think racing
Yeah,
is going to
could be
catch
very interesting.
people
And
off
if
guard.
anyone does that, it's going to be Atmo Esports that comes up with it.
They do some good stuff. I love the
Mm.
stuff they do. So, how is cargo hauling logistics box fun? Where does that sit in your ladder of excitement in Star Citizen?
Hmm. Yeah. Not that much. I know a lot of
Okay.
people who are very much into like the European Truck Simulator 2, just grabbing a container and going from point A to point B across Europe. Uh, Not that keen on it. In terms of just pure um, money making, I'm probably more into salvage and mining at this point,
Okay.
just because, yeah.
That's cool then. I'm looking forward to actually hearing your opinion on today's subject from that perspective, because most of the time you're hearing this stuff from a cargo hauler's perspective.
Yeah. Uh, in terms of actual appreciation of the mechanic, I think it's going in the right direction. Just just pushing a button and having your ship ready, it sounds very antithetical to me in terms of the of everything I know about cargo hauling, because in my main job we do a lot of import and export of big things. So I'm involved with prepping trucks for to get away to and it can take hours just to load up a single trailer. So a lot of that I think is lost if you just hit a button and then all your cargo is already on your ship, and then the
Right.
only thing you have to worry about is actually flying, because that's also flying on its own is just part of everything in Star Citizen, right? If you
Yeah.
want to do combat, there's flying. If you want to do salvage, you have to fly to get there and back. If you do mining, you also have to fly to get there and get back. I think the cargo hauling also needs something to set itself apart from other mechanics, just so it doesn't feel like it's just running from point A to point B.
Yeah, I think a big part of figuring this whole so for listeners, we're starting to talk about how cargo is being physicalized. This is the end,
Yeah.
not the end. This is we're very far into the cargo refactor that started in 2022, and at this point, they're basically removing the magical flow of cargo and commodities. There's no more large overarching local inventories. There's no more press a button and everything just happens in terms of cargo. Now it's either manually you need to load it or you have to pay somebody to do it over time. Pay somebody being like an invisible NPC. And I think it's worth explaining why something like this should be happening in Star Citizen. You already were getting into it, that it it builds on the career path, but a lot of people who aren't into cargo hauling obviously look at this and they're like, well, this is dumb. Only cargo haulers should have to deal with this. Why does everybody need to be moved over onto this system?
Hmm. Uh, well, one of it is just realism. Star Citizen always been grounded in realism as much as they possibly can without becoming boring. That is one of their mottos. Make it real and then pull it back to make it fun. But it, I guess, time management is a thing that. Yeah, it's a good question as to why. Because on the one hand, you have a lot of people who just want to just go and do stuff instead of having to wait
Just get going.
ahead of time.
Yeah.
Just get going. Yeah. Um, so
I was thinking I
yeah.
was thinking that it's it helps with everything making more sense, right? If only cargo haulers had stuff physicalized, well, I mean, you can't even really specify that, right? How do you specify who's a cargo hauler
Yeah.
and who's
Exactly.
not? The
Yeah.
person carrying one box is as much a cargo hauler as somebody carrying 40.
Yeah.
So you can't really break out that system. But the idea of physicalizing everything, I think, also kind of emphasizes the ships they've sold, right? Like the Hull C, the Raft, and the Nomad. These ships that are supposed to be faster because you can get the boxes there faster would basically be useless if we kept going on the system that we have.
Mm. Yeah.
So
It's a number of balance and realism. Yeah, definitely. It's oh god, how to word this. I guess it's I guess at the end of the day is if you feel like that the gameplay mechanics that most appeal to you are the ones that you can just get into immediately, cargo hauling just won't be for you. Um,
yeah,
yeah, at the end of the day, it should be hugely profitable. But if the only time sink you have for it is just hauling from one point to the from start to finish, that doesn't really that really unbalances things.
like the cargo hauling career path. like you were saying, isn't just about flying boxes from one place to another. It's about loading the ship and dealing with the actual logistics of the cargo.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, if you don't want to deal with that, you just pay someone else, and then you go do something else.
Right.
Um, I feel like I can't. I'm not sure if this has been confirmed, but if you just pay someone to load up or unload your ship, that does that happen just in the background, and you can just log off at that point, just like
Yeah. Oh,
refinery jobs?
I don't know if you can log off. I haven't even gotten to get into
Yeah.
Evocati, but it would make sense
If
if you could.
Yeah, just like refinery jobs, and then you get a notification your ship's ready. Um, and at that point, it really doesn't matter because you don't have to be around to wait for it, right?
That's a really key point that people
Mm,
should know is that this just because things are physicalized with manual loading doesn't mean you have to. The same exact system we're already using is still going to be there. It's just going to have
yeah.
a timer on it, just like the
Mm,
Hull C does. That change they made to the Hull C last year is
mhm.
supposed to come to all ships. And
Yeah, and I feel like the whole season is gonna get even a bigger rework when the MPUV T, whatever the one with the tractor
cargo.
beam is.
Oh yeah,
Uh, yeah, that one comes into play, and that is what's actually used to haul all those containers
right.
from the station to your ship. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have to make like exterior freight elevators for the larger ships, huh? 'Cause if you've
Mm,
docked, you got to be able to fly over and both have people on the ground with those boxes and also have a very accessible area for these tractor ships to come
yeah.
over, grab a box, and fly it to the Hull C.
Probably just a huge Pez dispenser type arrangement
Well, they
would be.
made those massive cargo decks like 5 years ago and never did anything with them, so maybe
Yeah,
now,
exactly. Yeah.
now they can.
No, they can.
Um,
Yeah. But I feel like my main takeaway from the cargo is I- a lot of people are going to find it very attractive just because they're all into the logistics and optimization of their actions, uh, and they won't mind loading ships on their own instead of paying and waiting. But for the other people who don't feel like this is their vocation, yeah, it's just gonna be to suck it up, unfortunately, just because.
well, here's my thing is that
Mm,
anybody who's not a cargo hauler, how many boxes are you really loading onto a ship at any time?
yeah,
Are it's what, three? One? You're just getting some loot, maybe a vehicle, possibly some extra food and supplies. Like that's not really going to be that much. You're just going to load it in a couple
yeah,
of minutes
it's
at
not
that.
gonna be hundreds of boxes that gonna take hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
like for yeah, it's still uh and it will still be skill based. If you have to be good with EVA, you have to be good with tractor beams if you want to do it quickly enough. Otherwise, it's just at one point you have to either admit that pushing a button and having the game just do it for you isn't satisfying, or you admit that it, it's not for you.
Yeah.
Mm,
Cargo hauling, yeah, it might not be for you. And
yeah, just
for
like PvP isn't for me. Like
well,
I
see,
don't like dogfighting.
and that's actually that draws a really good parallel because a lot of
Mm,
people will say the changes that are coming in to make this game interesting for PvP or, take it a step further, interesting for medical gameplay, interesting for miners, for salvagers. All these people get these gameplay elements added to the game to help their gameplay. Everyone else has to deal with them. We hear a bunch
mhm,
of people talking about how Master Modes is making their gameplay worse in their specific area so that the PvPers and the dogfighters can have better gameplay. And this is the same thing is happening now with cargo. They need their deeper gameplay, and that's going to affect
mhm.
everybody else too.
Yeah. The game evolves systematically, and it just brings everyone along for the ride. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think? And after this, we'll get back in. We'll get into first person experiences and what you
Hmm.
saw. But before that, I do want to ask: do you think this is bad for gameplay overall? Now, we've been talking about how they're trying to simulate and all this stuff, but some people think this is just going to straight up kill the game for a lot of people, drive people away. It's going to, half the community because nobody wants to deal with this. Realistically, like, we're very excited for it, but judging by the average player, do you think that it's actually going to have a negative effect?
I think a lot of that has to do with people just not liking change, just like with every aspect of the game. When hunger and thirst came about, there was a lot of pushback, but people just get used to it because it, in my opinion, was balanced quite well in the end. Instead of having to, constantly pay attention to your hunger and thirst meters, it's basically just you eat once a PlayStation and you're fine. Um, I I don't think it's going to be that huge, especially just because people it may in the end it will cut down on actual travel because you will have a base of operations to work from. It's not um you don't just wake up in your rented hab and then you have to make your way to your hangar. A lot of that busy work is gonna go away eventually, because logging out and logging in, they say, is just gonna happen everywhere instead of at preset locations.
Yeah.
So it is this there's a lot of other busy work that's eventually going to be phased out in favor of new busy work. So it's not going to
Yeah.
be, yeah. I don't feel like there's going to be that much of a drastic change in how much effort you need to put into the game. And then when you're just basically in your hangar, you have everything there available to you. It's more focused experienced, I believe it will be, at least.
I think this
So
is going to.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go.
I think it's going to be one of those things that hurts a lot because of the state of the game, not less so than the design of the game. Like, engineering freaks people out because they feel like their ship just always has glitches, right? They're always running into weird problems. So engineering will be just on an addition on top of that, or
Mm.
The death mechanics that they talk about. They freak people out because people are like, well, I always glitch and die. We die from everything. I fall through my ship and die. It's not going to be fun. This same thing is like, well, all of our boxes glitch into our ship. Our ship explodes and we lose everything, or everything already takes forever to get to your hab. And
Yeah.
it's like all of these things are things that are supposed to go away over time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard. It's hard to deal with the game right now because of those things.
Yeah, I get that. It, yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's just going to be one of those extra things that is going to be extra frustrating if the game suddenly decides that it just doesn't want to play well that day,
Yeah.
as it's want to do. Um, but we have to just. It's been 10 years, and I still haven't really lost faith in CIG developers getting it right, especially with all the bugs that we've encountered and have fortunately been squashed in the past. It's been a ride, but again and again, I've seen them come through on the other side, and
I bet our I
I
bet our commenters will have plenty of anecdotes for
oh
that.
yes, definitely. It's just going back to just the hangar module. There were so many literally groundbreaking bugs, ships falling through the ground when you touch them at one point, or I remember once I walked into my hangar to look at my 315 and the landing gear was constantly deploying and undeploying, and it was just like watching like a car on hydraulics jumping up and down. It was amazing. It's just
This
like
game, it's
so many
rough.
bugs. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even a lot of the game mechanics too, in the state that they're in, it's rough. And I think that this is also going to be rough. But
Yeah,
the
it will.
design change of this is key. And
You can't focus on but when the game breaks, it's just gonna break. You have to see past it. You have to see at the optimal version of the game. Otherwise, what's the point of playing and testing and
well,
reporting and hoping for the next patch that is going to fix things? There's going to be the Jesus patch like they always promise.
see, but that's the rough place we're in. I am a
Yeah.
huge proponent of look at the game that they're making, focus on the game that is supposed to be coming out because that's where the design is headed. But I sympathize 100% with the fact that people are coming in to play this game as their regular daily game. That CIG themselves are hosting events, they're doing in-game rewards, they're
That
doing things that incentivize you to play,
that
but
is a good
also
point. That is a good point.
it's it can be rough to play, and I think that's they've put themselves into that position where they need to start to, and I think they have start to think about changing up this from being alpha stability to a beta stability, even if we're still in the alpha stage, which is a
Mm.
huge challenge. I don't like
But
that they have to do
yeah,
that, but
yeah, and unfortunately, until all the groundwork is done, it's just not going to be viable. Because every time they make huge changes to the foundational aspects of the game, like with uh, server meshing that's coming and being tested, everything is going to break.
yeah,
And yeah, and right now the 324 patch, very crashy, but also uh the servers have been on resolving the have been coming back a lot faster than I've ever seen them before. So a lot of work is going on in the background
right.
to actually make the game more stable, I feel.
I
And
am
eventually, we will say goodbye to NPC standing on chairs.
hopefully we'll say hello to NPCs doing anything else, like
Yes, yes,
flying a
that
ship
would be good.
or walking around a
Yeah.
city, like making the game feel alive. It's definitely
Mm,
over the next, I think, year and a half, assuming server meshing does come this year. And
mm,
yes, I know this is an assumption, folks, but assuming server meshing does come this year, I
mm.
really, really hope that within a year and a half of that, we do start to see that stability really start to pick up and shore in. Even if there are features being developed, like you said, that back end of like server meshing with persistent entity streaming, the global entity graph, and the replication layer. Those are things that I feel like really, really can break us.
And they will when they come online. Things are just gonna break like they
Yeah,
have with every. Just just remember how bad PES was when it first came around, and kind of
good
works now.
times.
Fingers
Good
crossed.
times.
Yeah, good times.
So you mentioned that
Uh,
324 is a little bit unstable. Let's talk about your
mhm.
experience in the Evocati, what you actually got your hands on. Starting with
Mm.
stability.
Stability. Servers crashing, like the DGS crashing and recovering. That's very surreal still at this point, because we're also used to 30Ks, and server crashes, you boot it to the menu and have to log into a new one. But let's say minute, 2 minutes maximum, and everything's back exactly where it was. That's fine. On the other hand, there's now a 30,011 crash
Oh my,
that completely, breaks the shard. So, yay.
are you telling me we have 30K the sequel?
Mm.
No way. There's no way. What?
Yeah, there's the I believe it is the bug, no, a shard crash at that point.
Have
Yeah, because
they?
it does boot you to the menu, and then you have to go to a new shard.
So now we just need to work on shard meshing
Shard
to,
meshing.
yeah, we're
Mm.
gonna the next 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but realistically though, I'm guessing
Yeah.
they've acknowledged that and talked about kind of what they want to do to remedy that, or
I haven't actually seen any conversations about that, but I don't think anyone really didn't see it coming, just because that is a completely different set of 'cause that isn't even gameplay that crashes those, right? That is more like infrastructure issues
Mhm.
or database issues. So I don't think. Jeez, but what could it be that is causing those? Because
Yeah, I
they've
mean,
been quite numerous.
if it's the database, that's a problem.
That is a problem, but they did have a database issue from the beginning with PES, and they managed to resolve it. It's at this point, I think, just like in every ETF, just you got to test, you got to report issues. It's tough being an ETF because you want to test out all the new shiny, and as soon as you get to you make 5 steps further than you did before, and then it just comes all crashing down. But yeah, actually, let me do a Google. CIG does have a list of error codes.
For
What?
for anybody who's listening in and maybe hasn't been
Mm.
following for as long, the things that CIG is currently doing with Star Citizen, they aren't necessarily brand spanking new to the industry, but the way that they're
Oh,
combining
definitely not.
certain things are difficult, and also just don't have that many, I guess, predecessors or prior examples to really go by. The stuff they're doing when it comes to this persistence with this type of game in an MMO is things that they're actively basically R&Ding and then pushing to us to test to see how far this can go. So it's really it's that's why it often feels like 2 steps forward and 1 step back, because they're pushing the tech and then trying to stabilize it so that it actually works.
Mm.
And I guess we're going to see over the next few months how that rolls out when it comes to server meshing and more of this replication
Yeah,
layer separation.
and it looks like 30,011 is basically just a connection issue. So and it's
Okay.
been around since 319.
Oh,
That
I see.
specific error. It's just been popping up a bit more in ETF, but that could be just because it's ETF. It's very unstable,
Cool.
as it always has been. I remember several patches ago, before we had server recovery, it was 5 minutes and you're out, and you just couldn't do anything. At that point, it's basically just I'm done for the day. See you next patch. Um,
30Ks are dead.
but
Long live 30Ks.
yeah, yeah,
They'll always come back. How
always
about
come back.
how about the rest of the
But
patch?
the actual patch though,
Yeah.
oh, oh, the actual visceral experience of going to your personal hangar and bringing up a ship, that whoever designed that, from visual to audio, everything is a genius. It's like the biggest dopamine rush ever. Just like all the lights shut down and you have that holographic
Oh,
caution
that's
tape
cool.
that pops up, and the orange spinning lights start going, and you have the klaxons going. The floor opens up, and then the ship slowly rises. uh then the alarms go out and the lights start. The trope of turning on the lights in a huge room. The lights come in sequence, just go poof, poof,
Yeah.
poof, poof. Yeah, they got that going. and and I don't think I'll ever be able to get bored of that. It
You know,
just keep, yeah, okay, store ship, go new one,
yeah,
new
just keep
ship,
on
and it just
spawning your ships
keeps
out.
happening. Yeah.
Take some videos of it.
And I think a lot of people have been doing that and then eventually crashing the servers.
Hey, they got to test it because they know we're going to be doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
But that is it's again indicative of just how much the people who are making this game feel that kind of energy that people are looking for. Like, that is a
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
really special moment. The first time obviously is huge when you get a new ship and you want to spawn it.
Mm.
It's so much better than just walking into a room and it's sitting there. But
Yeah.
like, every single time you go to pick up your ship, it should feel significant, because everything about this game that I feel is wrong is that things don't feel significant. Like, I just go and die. Okay, I'll just respawn and get a
Mm.
ship. Oh, I just
Yeah,
lost some
yeah.
boxes. Okay, I'll just rebuy another gun. Like, I like that they do more things to
But
make things feel
I've
like a
been
bigger deal.
trying. Yeah, I've been trying not to do that. Like just yesterday, a friend and I went into live, and I was helping him with some cargo missions, and we both took two ships, and we were done. And then we started flying up. I was in Aurora, he was in a Reliant, and he was much faster than me. Crashed into me, I died. Well, instead of just saying, okay, let's forget that. Okay, now you're gonna come pick me up at the hospital, and we're gonna go back to the distribution center. We're gonna find my corpse so I can
Oh
loot it.
man.
And that was like on top of the like 45 minutes that we spent on the 6 block mission. We spent another 30 minutes, recovering the mistake. We left the Aurora where it was because it was just blown to pieces. But I got my armor back, so yay!
Yeah. See, and that's also what I'm talking about. Like the armor should be significant enough that you feel the need to go back and get it. I don't want to just lose things and be like, who cares, I want them to
Yeah.
matter. And it's like the little things like that, making a big show of the ship coming out that you're like, okay, this is a serious moment.
And being able to like maybe eventually customize your armor with stickers and paints that make it your own, make it your personal. So if you do lose it, you have an incentive to go back instead of just, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to buy new stickers. I have to go to this place to get the specific paint for it. Yeah, personalization of things like that is what also attracted. Yeah, it's attracting me to this patch with the personal hangar, because feels like it's mine. It's not just I'm at a spaceport, I go to a hangar that is there already and it just happens to have my ship. No, it's going to be mine. It's going to have my furniture in it. It's going to have my stuff in it. It's going to have a lot of my ships. It's going to have my bike in the corner.
So
it's going to be my
So this
hangar.
update is actually introducing the ability to personalize a permanent space for players, right?
Yes. And one thing I didn't realize until people told me, Kasaba sells furniture.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I heard about that. Tables, chairs. I hear the chairs, some of them are branded like the companies, like they were just ripped out of a spaceship, so you can have the cockpit chair like in your hangar. That's so cool.
There is I can talk about it. Someone wasn't happy with just decorating their hangar with those chairs. So they brought a caterpillar and bought like 50 chairs and put the chairs in the caterpillar.
So now you got yourself a bus.
So, yeah, I wouldn't call it a hauler or a cruise ship. Yeah, a caterpillar is a bus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But then engineering comes in, right? And life support starts to say, well, you're going to put that many people in the ship. You got like 2 minutes. You better put them in spacesuits. But yeah, I mean, like it's such almost a sleeper feature because they didn't even talk about it, right? It was kind of stuff that they showed a little bit in ISC, but customizing a space is a big deal. This is a start of something potentially huge, possibly one of the biggest monetization models for the game even.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, could be. Yeah. Just because, like I said before, people just want to have a slice of the game for themselves. If that's on a ship, fine. If that's in a big city, fine. But a lot of people are also very much attracted to the prospect of just being somewhere out there on their own.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what they do, so long, and then the rest of the game just becomes a means of sustaining that lifestyle.
Yeah. And that's the point. Everything is a game loop if it makes enough money for you to be able to do the other stuff you want. People talk about exploration being so far away in the game, but all they need to do is allow explorers to sell locations to miners, and you can make money exploring. It's right there. The cargo reward or the cargo missions that they're bringing in with this patch, which we haven't really seen yet, they've also talked about how there's rewards you can only get in the game by doing these things, which is, I think it might be the first time we've seen something you can earn in game from a mission.
That's been talked about for a while, like reputation gated rewards. If but how far do you think they should go with that? Is it actual specific items that are gated, or is it just skins?
I do
for items.
I do think that there should be both. Like the military multi-tool, you shouldn't be able to get from anybody other than the military, right? Or like a black market dealer. So like, that would be cool.
Okay, so there should be other ways, yes.
Right, yeah.
Illegitimate ways, yes. And if you get caught with possessing an illegitimate item that you didn't get through official means, that it should also come with a penalty.
Right.
Just like a stolen apple in Skyrim.
So yeah, I think that like specific items would be good, but also I would love to get a railgun skin from Shubin Interstellar, packages here like that, that kind of, I would little skins like that. Like how cool would it be? And I know you can't do this because it's a real world company, but how cool would it be to have like a UPS or a FedEx skin on your Hulsey? Like doing reputation based skins for weapons, armor, vehicles, ships, even like banners. Large cloth banners.
That's why there's so many brands in the actual game, so you can have so yeah, that would actually be the brands that are in charge of the reputation could have their own branded stuff that they can hide behind the gates. That would be interesting. Yeah,
I was just thinking the huge like the cloth tech they spent so long working on and talking about. Now they can give us these massive company banners to put up in our hangar. And that would be so cool. The potential for this stuff is cool.
Yeah, but who do you want to sim for? Is it Kovalex? Is it?
Oh my gosh, dude! When I start getting into the lore, and it's like maybe just nobody. They're all pretty bad. Like
yeah.
Like you work for the company in game, like Shubin Interstellar. You're working with them, and then you go and you look at the lore of the company and what they've done over the last 9 centuries, and you're like, oh. Maybe I shouldn't work with them. That's they don't care if their employees die. Okay, I get it. Cool. I don't know though. I think
it's very Hurston of them.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I feel like there's a lot more companies that are very Hurston. They just don't have their own planet.
And I'm reminded of Planet Express from Futurama. It's like what is it? Our crew is expendable. Your package is not. That's their motto.
Gosh.
So from that was episode 2, I believe. Yeah,
it'll be cool.
But
I think I would get a Castac Arms banner because I just think the design would be sick. But yeah, I think that is, man, it's such a small release for such a big deal feature. And I know I keep saying that, but cosmetics, man, it actually starts to get real with this.
Yeah. What's the most? Yeah, because there's nothing so far.
No, you could get a coffee machine in your 300i.
Yeah, or a rice cooker. Yeah, but yeah, it's really just limited to that. It's not something that you can just go and plant everywhere like you'll be able to now.
Yeah, and having a permanent space. So let's talk a little bit more about that because it's cool, obviously, to say you have a home, but there's real gameplay ramifications here. I think one of the biggest is that this persistent space you have is available to your party to access, where they can access both, I believe it's their own inventory and yours.
Oh, friends list and party services hasn't worked in 324 yet, so I have actually no idea.
Okay.
I think and I actually managed to get myself into another person's hangar, and I was immediately charged with trespassing and teleported out. So
okay, it worked pretty quick.
So you can just get into someone's hangar and start messing about.
Is it easy to like follow them in?
Well, yeah, because so the way the elevators now work, instead of having a list of hangar 1 through whatever, then now just whoever called the elevator, they get their personal elevator with only the button person's size hangar on the keypad. Yeah. So if someone else follows them in, they can just go to the same place.
But then you get trespassing.
But then you get trespassing because you're not in the party yet.
Right.
And the party doesn't work yet. So who knows?
So I know
haven't been tested.
I know that you can access your party members. Like if you have a hangar and your party member comes in, they can access their own inventory there. So if they can also access yours, which I think they said that, but I might need to confirm that, this would essentially be a player trading system that lets you process buy and sell orders at any point, right? Because they don't have to be there. You could be on the other side of a system. You could have dropped off mining bags, and then your friend can come and pick up those mining bags 30 minutes later, throw them in their inventory, load them on their ship, and go ship them, go sell them, and that could be huge for orgs and stuff.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Um, it's slightly more a bit convoluted than I would like, just
Mm-hmm.
because um, if you have to store something in the inventory and then transfer from one inventory to another and then pull it up from your second inventory, um, I would much prefer it if you just had the access to your um, yeah to your hangar from the user interface as well. Just
Like you can spawn your ship in there. I mean, it's as simple as flying your ship in. Like you don't have to store it in the freight elevator, right? You just put the boxes in the hangar, leave them there
yeah,
because they'll physically persist, and then your
of
friend
course,
can
yeah.
come by and grab them.
Yeah, that I think it remains to be seen how that whole mechanic will pan out.
Okay.
It is a permissions thing, as always with these things. It's a permissions thing. Um,
Okay. We'll have to see how it rolls out.
yeah, we'll have to see, because yeah, that's a very interesting way to look at it. Because yeah, someone lands, drops the saddlebags, and leaves. But if you're in the hangar, if they drop you off with them, and then
You have access to the hangar as
you have
long as you're
access
in
to
the
the
same
hangar, but is
party.
it their hangar or is it also your hangar because you're in the party?
It's not your hangar. It's still theirs,
No. Yeah, yeah. But
but you
then
can
do you
access
have
your
access
inventory.
to or your ships as well? But will there be such thing as party hangars or org hangars that have
Well,
access to multiple users worth of inventory and ship fleet?
the way it sounds, everybody in the party can access their inventory, right? So as long as it's somebody in the org and you're all in the same party, you could dump all your same stuff in the hangar, I would assume. That's at least that's what they've made it sound like. And
Mm.
um
If that's the case, yeah, then that'd be super easy.
yeah.
So long as it all depends on the person who's operating the inventory, the
Right.
user interface, I guess. Yeah.
So you haven't been able to really play around with multiplayer sort of cargo stuff.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. No. Don't know why, but every time you try to send a friend request or invite someone to party, it just gives the service unavailable error. I don't know if that's by intent, that they are just focusing on just getting the core functionality of the hangars and the inventory down before they start combining several people,
Mhm.
or if it's just a bug in the first and second build that they pushed out. Can't tell you, unfortunately. But yeah,
Probably because Evocati, right?
yeah,
Always the
just
answer.
Evocati things. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the freight elevators. You gotten to
yeah,
experiment with those much?
yeah. For some reason, everyone and their dog is in possession of the retaliator modules, and you can bring those up individually without the ship. It's a bit weird, but
Huh.
okay. Yeah, they're just on the ground. The torpedoes and the loading mechanism for their torpedoes are just there.
Wish you could load that
Um,
into another ship. Or put
yeah,
a module inside of my 890 jump hangar bay so I have a couple extra jump seats. That's interesting. How is the experience of using the freight elevator? Is it pretty smooth, intuitive, straightforward? Is the UI
yeah.
okay?
UI is very nice. Yeah. So you basically just have two windows, left and right. One is the elevator, one is your inventory, and then you just click, 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 click. It automatically just starts selecting whatever you click, and then you push a button. It transfers those there, and then you hit another button that says raise elevator. Elevator comes up, and everything's there.
Okay.
It's very intuitive. Very the I just some issues with filtering currently, but that's
Yeah.
always been an issue with. But the issue with filtering is the actual drop down menu not going away for some reason, and then when you, it's a weird if else issue inside the actual user interface, not anything to do with how it's designed. It's just a bit
No
of coding issue, I would say.
no search either, right? At least not yet.
I don't remember seeing a search bar. No.
Yeah, that I've heard that's the most painful part
Hmm.
so far. So we got a lot of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, and the item banks, as used to be called, I don't know what they renamed them
Storage
officially now.
access?
Storage access. Yeah, it
Yeah.
basically works the same thing. You have two windows side by side, even the interface is the same. And then instead of just hitting the button, bring elevator up, it's open inventory, and then you're automatically put into the uh, loot screen. So
The loot
to
screen,
just,
not I thought it was the old inventory screen that pops up.
I think it's loot.
Huh. I'm really hoping that
No, you're right. You're
the
right. It's the old inventory screen with you as a doll in the center, so you
okay.
can start moving things around. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems weird to me. And maybe that's because this is a sort of halfway moment.
Mm,
And I really wish that we weren't having a halfway moment with this, but it almost feels like they should just do what they used to do with the PMA on the kiosk for the storage access. It's like you customize yourself basically on that UI instead of doing the whole switch to the inventory afterward thing.
mm. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, but in the end, it gives you the option to whether you want to grab something and put them in your personal inventory on your person, or actually wear something. Right,
It lets
because
you
in the end, it just behaves as a container of stuff
okay.
instead of something that dresses you like an Iron Man thing.
So can I move stuff from the kiosk into my backpack without leaving the kiosk UI?
Uh, yes, because well, when you're in the kiosk UI, you set things up, and then when you push a button, all those items are then presented in the box that's at your feet, and that
Okay.
box behaves as a loot box
So
that you
yeah.
find usually in game.
So no matter what, there's always two UI interactions.
Yeah, yeah, it is clunky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but in terms of feel, I want to say it's better than just the nebulous press I and have access to everything everywhere.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Mm.
I would expect of them to had a solution for that. But I hope they go in that direction. You know, they used to have it like that. The Mobi used to have it where you would just assign all your stuff to your character in the
Yeah,
menu, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
which
the,
is
the classic RPG thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's how RPGs do it. And I feel like replicating that screen on the storage access and just giving you a basically a perfect one-to-one representation of your character's body would solve all of these problems. Oh, maybe not all the problems, but it would take away the old inventory. It'd still allow us to see our character while we customize. It keeps that immersive, you're on the actual UI, and it doesn't make us do two different UI
Yeah.
interactions.
Yeah, yeah, you have a point. Yeah, so you could but then you would have to do a lot more, yeah, uh, setup beforehand. Yeah, so if you had um, the actual inventory, like your personal inventory on the one side, and then you would keep just dragging on, and then when you hit confirm,
Then you
things
do
would
it.
happen automatically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I assume they'll have more to say about it because this is definitely not a finalized iteration. I
oh,
mean, it's
yeah,
just
oh yeah,
Evocati right
definitely
now,
not.
but
Yeah,
even whatever
exactly.
launches with 324 Live is probably going to be changed up.
Yeah, and that's why we're here. That's what we're here to
Yeah.
give feedback. I don't mind it, just because I like to take my time, just making sure everything's where it's supposed to be. But yeah, there's probably ways that they could optimize that. But on the other hand, just whatever they do, they're gonna get pushback because some people
Well,
are gonna think it feels too gamey. Some people feel like it's disrespecting their time just because they have to do two UI things. But that's that going back to the cargo thing. It's sometimes you have to have time sinks just because having things happen automatically just pulls you out of it.
yeah.
And
Respecting
and
time.
mm,
Respecting time also means making sure time means something. And if you can just travel across a star system in seconds, if you can just get all the inventory you need in seconds, like if all those things just take seconds, then time kind of loses that
Yeah.
meaning. So there's a balance to be had there for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I was saying finding the correct balance is the most difficult. The balance, I believe, is what defines a game in how much effort you have to put in into certain things versus how much is done for you. And you have like cookie clickers on the one hand, and then you have what was that game that that had just a single demo out, and then I believe it got canceled, where everything in the ship you had to push the button for. You had to prime like fusion
Mm,
reactors and pumps.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, it was like that to me feels like it's too complex at that point. And and then you have the entire range in between, and if you feel like where Star Citizen is headed in terms of how much engagement it requires from the player just to do menial tasks, maybe it's not the game for you.
I
And
think
I hope I don't find myself in that position at one
we all
point, because
could.
it's been 10 years and amount of dollars spent at this point. So
There's everybody's going to be disappointed with something that happens with this
mhm.
game. Like it's just a matter
Yeah.
of think about the general idea of a game that you want and set on that. Don't get set too much on specifics. And I've even done that. There's things that I've been like, okay, I'll take concessions there because I'm looking for a good space game. Doesn't have to have every little small detail that I want, but you're gonna have to end up dealing with some disappointment with this stuff. And I think a lot of people's problem with the game is that it's headed in the direction um, that you're describing, in that it is making things more significant and make more time, but it also isn't quite rewarding. Like right now, it's not rewarding enough for the things you do, and it looks
Mm.
to people like they're starting to add more things to do, more time it takes, more money, all this stuff, without necessarily giving us more of the reward because those rewards
Yeah, because
aren't built yet.
yeah, and money isn't the reward people think it is, and being able to buy just everything isn't the reward, for me at least.
Reputation's
Just
a big part of it.
yeah, reputation and making an impact in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crafting, economy, reputation, like those are the things that make it feel rewarding. And without those,
Hmm.
more time sinks just comes off as
As
disregard for player
yeah,
time to a lot
exactly.
of
Yeah,
people. Yeah.
yeah. And at this point, we're just still waiting on the rewards to offset the time sinks.
Yeah.
But the time sinks have to be there, otherwise the actual um, action of playing the game becomes monotonous and unrewarding.
Button pressing.
Some reward also has to be in actually playing the game, not just what you gain from it afterwards.
Hmm. Now, 324 also has Blockade Runner. It's got weapon balancing going on. It's got night vision scopes or low light scopes.
Oh, right,
It's
light amplification
yeah,
scopes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Um, we're not going to talk about those because those haven't been in the build yet, and as well as cargo missions. We didn't really get too deep into cargo missions because
No, it's currently far too unstable. At one point, there were too many people waiting to get into their hangars and not enough elevators, and the elevator just kept popping from one door to the other, and you could see, if you just ran across, you could see the same person, the doors open, the same person still staring at their butt, not being able to go to their hangar, and people just spamming the request elevator button, and this person just going left and right in the
yeah,
lobby, and it's just the yeah, game currently in ETF, very, very, very early days for the patch. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
testing the foundations before they can move on um, to the more nuanced things, like actually incorporating how that works with the rest of the game. Yeah.
yeah. there's still more stuff to come in the update. The last thing today that I wanted to talk about specifically were the hover trolleys. Did you get to try those out at all with the boxes?
No, no. Unfortunately, I think you have to go to a cargo station and buy one of those, and then you can do stuff with it. But so the only thing I have from those is what we've seen on ISC, and that's pretty much nothing. Just B-roll.
Yeah.
How they're supposed to work. Yeah.
I wonder about them because I think they carry 12 SCU, which is like a okay amount. I mean, that could save you some time if you load the boxes into that, drive it onto your ship. If you were in like is it 12? No, I think it's more than 12 SCU, but it's not a
12
ton.
seems a lot. Yeah.
It's not a,
like the Avenger has 6.
That's where I think it might help because 12 SCU is, I don't know if that's enough to justify loading a whole cart and then driving the cart over rather than just running back and forth with the tractor beam. Maybe if they let you stack it 2 times high.
I think it depends on the location you're in. The hangars, the personal hangars, are very convenient because the cargo elevator is basically right next to your ship.
Yeah, that's fair.
But on outposts, it could be that you have to land at a landing pad that is way away from the nearest freight elevator. So you have to actually make the trek, and just doing that with tractor beams could be very tedious. You'd have to get more people involved. Tractor beams should, I say should, run out of battery, and these hover trolleys possibly not. It's
True.
Yeah. I don't think they would invent such a thing and just to put in the game. Just they've only done it once with a ROG DS. That is the useless thing.
And the cargo
I think
decks.
they've learned from that.
The Rock DS, the cargo decks, and those turrets they put outside of outposts. Just why? Why did we need any of those things? I mean, I know why. It's squadron, at least for the turrets, but yeah, those are a couple of those things.
One thing that I didn't notice was, like, around distribution centers, there's like a couple of kilometers out, there's like really these pens and a building and some cargo and some shelving, and they're fenced off, and there's like 10 around each of the distribution center. I don't know what those are, but the mission that I mentioned that a friend of mine did was taking boxes from the distribution center and delivering them just to those little
Little
things
outpost
around
kind of
it.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and those also have um the turrets, and they have NPCs manning those turrets, just like Jump Point does.
I've heard about those missions. It's a cool idea. Little local ground delivery missions,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah, and you could definitely do that with an Ursa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't need a ship, right?
Yeah. No, that's a good idea for
Yeah.
a mission, and I think that with these kinds of changes with the freight elevators and everything like that, it adds into that. Let's talk about how these changes. So most of this again has been from the perspective of like people who are really into this change. But as you said, you're not super into this, you're more into mining. For most general players, how does this change the overall normal loop if you've been able to experience that in Evocati? Is it going to slow people down a lot?
No, I wouldn't say a lot. It's just a couple of extra steps. Primarily, most of the time will be spent traversing from one location to the other, just like it is. Right now, it's just the way you handle. Like if you just do a small cargo transport mission, you would, I'm guessing, instead of having your ship loaded up with cargo immediately, the cargo comes into your inventory, and then you just bring it up with the elevator and load it in yourself. So there's what, 10 minutes extra?
Let's say
It's
somebody was getting a couple of rifles and pistols and ammo, like the normal stuff you'd get to go do some bunker missions and do some looting runs. You got to get your one
Mhm.
SCU box and all that kind of stuff. Is that when they call that from the freight elevator, or I guess from the storage access, is that like one and done kind of thing? Like, I guess they wouldn't call it from the storage access because you can't put all that in a backpack. So let's say you call all that from a freight elevator. Does it come up in like one box and you transport that to your ship? Does every item come up in different
Oh,
boxes?
I haven't actually. I haven't actually tried whether you can interact with containers inside your inventory and put stuff into it yet. I would imagine you could, but just like from normal inventory, if you have stuff in your backpack and you just bring out your backpack, you get the backpack with the stuff in it instead of the backpack plus all the things extra. So I would imagine if you store something into a box and put it in storage, it would remain in the box.
Right.
But I don't know whether if you have stuff loose in your inventory and also a box in your inventory, whether you can pack from the UI.
Yeah, yeah. Or if you call that stuff, how does it come up? Have you been able to call a bunch of small items on the freight elevator before and see what it does?
Uh, no, interestingly. The only thing I was able to bring up was a fish tank, the the torpedo module for the Retaliator, and I also brought up a bunch of flare that was just missing, which was probably because it's old stuff that's actually not physicalized in the game
Mm-hmm.
yet.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah, but yeah, I haven't actually. Oh, that's a good question. I should probably do that next batch,
Refresh an
just to see what
ETF.
just see what happens. Yeah, I wanted to bring paints and missiles and guns and ship components and just see how they are. But what I would imagine is just like components you've seen on the show floor at the expo, right?
Mm-hmm. They just come
It
up as
they
loose
just
items.
probably just loose items. Yeah.
I mean, if they just come up as loose items, um, yeah, that really doesn't add too much from. Well, it does if you are used to. If you have that stuff in your inventory, you go into your ship in the current system. You can basically just drag everything out onto your ship inventory and go from there. The only difference
Yeah.
here is you go to the freight elevator, grab that stuff, and you're gonna have to come up with a way to get it from the freight elevator into your ship's separate inventory slots. So like the cabinets on your ship, maybe a
Yeah.
box on the cargo grid. Like you might want to always have an SCU box in every cargo grid so you don't have to worry about specific places. But there is
Yeah.
there is some level of extension of gameplay in that period
There,
of like get the
there's
stuff and bring it.
a lot of storage management is going
Hmm.
to be added. Yes, just because nothing is going to be uh, like a nebulous bag of holding anymore. Um, One thing I haven't noticed in the UI is that something that Dr. Chad McKinney mentioned was like the stuff that you put in at the front of the grid that's going to be more accessible. I haven't seen that UI yet. So
The
it's just like a nebulous list of things on the left and on the right, and then when you
oh,
bring up the inventory, it's just wherever. You're not actually sorting it on the floor of the elevator
hmm.
that is shown.
Yeah, I want to see that
Mm,
in both the freight elevator and on my ship. If I'm having them auto load my ship, I want them
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
be able to specify where things are because eventually the mass of this cargo is going to throw off the mass distribution of your ship, and some
Mm.
cargo might need to be kept cold and all that kind of stuff.
And if you have several drop-off locations, you want to have the stuff that you want dropping off first be accessible immediately and not buried under several other boxes of stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Um, let's talk a little bit more about that loading of ships because I've heard some things. First of all, I've heard that the cargo timing for loading a ship automatically is just astronomically long in some situations
Yeah.
and sounds like it needs to be balanced. What have you seen on that?
I've only seen comments from people in regards to that. I haven't actually done it myself, but it's one of those things I feel like it has to be an unattended thing, just like refinery jobs, right? If they remain that much of a time sink, you would it would be one of those things you would do as the last thing before you log out for the night, and then the next play session you log in and your ship full of cargo ready to be hauled somewhere is ready. But then you also have to make sure it's not a time sensitive mission, etc., etc. So
I think that if the prep is that long though, you need to promise more gameplay during the actual hauling phase, right? Because if you're gonna have to wait, and what we're seeing is like 5 hours for a C2, which I don't think it's gonna stay that long. But let's say you did have to wait that long, it would make sense for them to say, okay, maybe you're not doing that many cargo runs because you have to do a cargo run and then like that whole period of planning the cargo run, doing the cargo run, and selling the stuff is your play session, 3 hours of gameplay. And then you set it to load another ship for 5 hours, you log off, you go to sleep, whatever. You should be expecting to come back into another really fresh 3 hours of gameplay if you're only getting one cargo haul, you know?
yeah, yeah, right. Uh, Yeah, and then also depends on how good you are actually loading the thing.
Yeah,
We haven't actually had incentive to do a lot of loading manually yet. So I don't think even CIG knows exactly how long it takes for a player to load up a C2 at this point.
right. Which I guess they didn't get to run it through QA, maybe. I don't know. But
Mm.
that I do hope to see that change before we go to PTU or live. And I'm
Yeah,
guessing that they're gonna dial that in quite a bit. There's also the complication that I'm seeing, one of our supporters in chat just brought up. Um, the difference between loading cargo boxes, maybe you want to do one 32 SU box versus 32 1 SU boxes,
hmm.
doesn't seem to make a difference when it comes to the timing of loading your ship right now. So like they take the same amount of time, which is probably also
Silly.
an error. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was the example that's being referenced is 10 pound 42. He was on an episode a couple weeks ago, and he loaded 120 SU 1 SU boxes along with 62 SU boxes, and they both took the same amount of time.
Huh. Yeah. That feels like it's just a mathematics issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are probably some pretty key Evocati problems we're seeing.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, haven't had the chance. I've just been playing with the bringing the ship up, and ship go up, ship go down, ship go up, ship go down,
Best part of the
and
patch.
hmm
Um,
uh, yeah. It is hilarious though when you have an extra large hangar, and you bring out a Pisces. It is as
oh,
hilarious
right.
as it is when you get when you in the old patch when you got assigned hangar. What was it? 13 um, at Grimhex, which is the big one,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you have this tiny ship very
You got to
very
do a
far away.
half a kilometer sprint just to get to your
Yeah.
ship.
Mm.
Give us
But
our.
one of the things I wanted to do and didn't manage because server's so crashy. Bring up an Ursa, park it to the side. Bring up a Pisces, park it to the side. Bring up a Carrack, open it up, store Ursa, store Pisces, close up, store Carrack and see what happens there. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
bring it back up, is stuff in as it should be.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, just servers very, very, very crashy.
Haven't been able to get that far. That'll be good to test. I hope in the next
Mm,
week we get some more stable stuff so we can get deeper into these things.
yeah.
Before.
Just putting things into things. I want to put things into things.
Yeah. We've been waiting so long for it. What about the cargo refactor overall? So we started with. Really, they started just by like physicalizing boxes and letting us, use tractor beams on them. Then they
Mm.
moved on to allowing them to be like stolen a little bit more, and everything was kind of real in the game. We got um, the loot boxes kind of so you could put stuff in containers and take them with you. And now we're looking at the physicalization of everything. Are there any more steps to the cargo refactor that you know of?
Hmm. Uh, I want to say different types of containers for different types of materials. Not just stuff that needs uh, the special containment, whether it's cold storage or anti-shock storage or anti-quantum influence storage, but just liquids, minerals, foodstuffs, perishables, um, containers that weigh different amounts, containers that can't be stacked. Let's say just because you just like in real life, there's some stuff that you don't want to be crushed by more cargo on above it. More, I would say, just a more consideration into planning out your packing situation.
Hmm.
But other than that, uh, yeah, one thing they showed, which was hilarious, was just being able to put anything on a cargo grid, not just containers.
Yeah,
That I would like to see.
that'll be
Uh,
good.
yeah, so you're able to transport small ships with hulls, for instance, from one location to another, or the huge hot dogs, or
Components and
just
parts and stuff.
or just components and parts. Yeah, yeah, or just
Yeah.
racks of missiles and torpedoes and stuff like that. Yeah, not just a box that is just shaped and sized to occupy a very specific amount of pixels.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, you got mass distribution coming in. And,
Hmm.
as you're saying, just considering a bunch of different aspects of the cargo you're hauling should make things more interesting. And that's something we might see in the cargo missions that are coming out. But overall, I do wonder if these missions in this refactor finally from courier missions to actual cargo hauling stuff, do you think it's going to solve the problem that people have with cargo hauling, it just being kind of boring and unfulfilling?
uh, I think it's a step in the right direction just because it makes you more involved in packing your ship with cargo, instead of just hauling a full ship versus an empty ship. Um, if they actually make, but I don't see how they could, some sort of reputation chain with how good you are at packing, maybe.
The
But
logistics.
yeah, but just efficiency of being able to load and unload. Maybe there's a timer, the time it takes for you to when you arrive at somewhere and to to finish the mission. Maybe that's something they could keep track of in the background, and the faster you are, the less is is damage to containers and goods a thing, you think?
I think so.
Like so every piece of cargo is tracked versus how well you take care of it, and
Yeah.
then and that if that's a thing, they could definitely attach some reputation to that. Like if you're fast but you're reckless and all your cargo comes half damaged, you shouldn't get as much reputation as someone who's slightly slower, but everything arrives pristine condition.
Yeah. 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 And
Hmm.
that, oh my gosh. And I just think about that and how that relates to personnel transportation missions. And like,
Piracy.
they've got a lot.
Mm.
They've got a lot.
So the potential is there, but again, we're now very deep into theory crafting and not actually talking about what's actually in the patch.
Yeah.
So
Overall, how do you think this patch is? It's really early, so you don't have to give like your final
mm,
thoughts on it or anything. But is this taking the game in a better direction? Is this the patch that not even the patch, just the features themselves have been very hyped up and very exciting to a lot of people. Does it feel like it's going to fulfill that?
yes, I do believe so. Just if not the very aspect of personal hangar with your own personal space, that is going to convince a lot of people that it's, even though it may not seem that much of a difference because it is the same all assets that we've seen so far in Star Citizen, just used in different ways. It's gonna push that the game to be more a game that's not just being played, but a game that's lived, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get you. It's what they're going for. They want a game where you're
Yeah.
doing things in the game. And all I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to making sure that people feel rewarded for the like. You can make things take a long time. You can make them take a lot of effort, but you need to build in the intrinsic value and entertainment into that process still. So if
Mhm.
I'm waiting a few hours for cargo to load, there needs to be something else that, obviously you can go over and do other stuff, but like the cargo haul itself needs to reflect how serious you made that action.
Mhm.
And this whole thing feels like it makes everything much more serious, but there are other aspects that need to catch up, I think.
Yeah. As soon as we're able to actually, take flight with the new cargo, we'll see how that pans out. Whether piracy starts becoming a lot bigger concern. But I also think one thing that is going to take the hauling profession to another level is going in and out of Pyro and other systems. Because
Hmm.
Stanton is pretty much the same everywhere. There's no difference in um, fear levels or danger levels, so you don't have to plan your route at the moment as much as you would if going through system that is completely lawful through completely unlawful territory. Um, right now, yeah, there's not going to be that much risk, I want to say, other than random interdictions that you can just run away from,
Yeah.
right?
Or like a beginner pirate who's like, ooh, a ship.
Mm,
Not, yeah, you don't run into too many people, and that's partially server size and yeah, the system
mm,
that we're in.
yeah,
All right, man. Well,
Stanton to be safe.
thank you for joining me for this chat. This is it's an exciting one because this patch it could be for some people the most important patch of the year. And we won't talk about the fact that server meshing might be coming out, but gameplay
Hmm,
wise, this
hmm,
is a
hmm.
big deal for a lot of people. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this uh rolls out over the next couple weeks, and I appreciate your own insights on everything.
Yeah,
Before we
I will be testing and all the things that come up, and yeah, excited for it. Yeah.
before we go,
Mm.
I want people to know a little bit about what you do. Usually, we have YouTube folks and you know different folks who are putting out content, but you actually put out a different kind of content, or at least one of your forms, than a lot of the other people who come on.
Yeah.
You do a lot of the models with JRDF. You want to explain a little bit about how that works because this is actually pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, JRD, if you don't know, we are the licensed maker for ship models. We have quite a bit of a backlog that is mostly JR, who the founder of JRDF. Yes, a fantastic name there. But he has moved on recently to doing other stuff for CIG, primarily fitting out the Manchester studio. So I was originally brought in as a photographer and graphic designer, but now I've moved on to 3D modeling, and now I'm the one who brings out the kits. So in the past, I've done a few small ones, 1 to 500, the Avenger, the Vulture, uh, some other Aegis and Drake ones. But now, in a couple of weeks, we're hoping to release a 1 to 100 Saber Raven.
It looks
This
really
is
nice.
my current baby, my current project. Yes, this is uh, if you're very familiar with the Raven, and I believe I'm probably most familiar with the Saber Raven right at this point, the way it looks and all the intricacies, just because I've been staring at this thing for the past couple of months. This is the pre gold standard one. I don't have a printed model of the gold standard one, but that is all been done and it's ready and it's waiting for CIG to give us a final go, and we'll be able to start production and painting. But yeah, this is a completed, finished
It looks
1 to
beautiful.
100 Saber Raven. Thank you very much. We take the model from the game and we massage it in different ways to make sure that it's actually be able to be printed, and then broken up into this one. I believe is about 60 pieces. Um, and then also we have to add all the details that aren't there in the game geometry, etc. This one, for instance, I'm very pleased because it is very lighting focused. So we have all the lights that are on the ship. We have in clear prints, and we have concessions in the geometry, so you can add very tiny LEDs, and the interior, as you can see, is hollow, so you can hide um, the wiring and the electronics for it. But in the end, it is yeah, it is a very, very highly detailed and the detailed model that I believe a lot of people in the Saberhaven Owners Club are going to be to appreciate. And it's got magnets. So you can see on the back on below here, it's got the EMP bay that opens, unlike in game. But yeah, you can just take these off, and then you can put in the closed one, and uh, and this is also the MP generators. And if you want, you can also light those up, because those are also both in clear and opaque that we're going to be providing. And yeah, the magnets also. You can swap out the landing gear for landed and flight mode, and we have a stand for it, and all the good things that you want to you expect to get from a high quality kit model.
So is there anywhere people can go to see pictures of this stuff? Your YouTube channel,
Uh,
or do you do this on Twitch?
we currently don't. We're gonna start streaming soon, as soon as we get the go ahead from CIG to start actual official marketing. That's gonna be on twitch.tv/jr JRDesFab, I believe, or maybe we'll make a new one just because it is a new venture with the JRDF US branch. It used to be based in Scotland, but now we've moved over to US.
Cool.
Um, but other than that, it's JRDF.sc for the store. We have all our backlog there. We have the Carracks, we have the Arrows and Dragonfly and Cyclones and Freelancers. Uh,
Awesome. Well,
and I'll, yeah.
thank you so much
No
for
problem.
letting us in on that stuff. And folks, the links will be down in the show notes below. Thank you
And
all
we'll
though so much.
definitely be doing a lot of marketing once we're really close to it, because we want to get this kit into as many people's hands as possible.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming to the show. Appreciate y'all who listened on the audio platform. If you're watching on YouTube and you don't like ads, our audio platform is still ad-free, supported by our supporters. And thank you guys for keeping that going. Hopefully we don't have to introduce ads, but we appreciate you. And we will be back to covering, I believe we'll be doing another episode on 324 next week, because this is just, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And I'm looking forward to seeing how everything progresses over the next couple of days. And by the time you guys are hearing this episode, probably things will have already changed, and we'll be due for another update. But thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you all next week.